Let me introduce to you Paula Gonzales of Dress for Success Mid-Fairfield.
Good evening, everyone. If I ask you to close your eyes and imagine the number 14, what would you imagine? My guess, in many of your minds, or through anyone's mind, the days when you were 14 years old. You might have felt the summer, you might have felt going outside and playing with brothers or sisters, or even simply going to the beach. You might even remember your early high school dance. But for me, that number means something different. My mother gave birth to me when she was only 14 years old. I never knew her as a mother, but I knew she was there. She took custody of me when she took custody of me when I was a baby of 3 months old. My great-grandmother took custody of me. But I always knew my mother existed one way or the other. I heard stories of her throughout the years. But when I became of age to know exactly what truly happened many years ago, I developed a depression. When I was a young child, my family was frank to me where I began. See, my mom is not just my mother. My mom is also my sister. At the dawn of her early childhood, she was raped by her so-called father, which you can say he is my father. Trying to understand what happened many years ago in those roaring 80s, like I call them, I try to understand what was the life of my mother. And all she ever knew was the streets, drugs, and prostitution. I couldn't come to term what had happened, but to this day, I still can't admit it, and I couldn't come to a conclusion. But see, it opened the doors to many things that we all think that everything could be different for a 14-year-old. At 14 years old, I became pregnant myself. I said to myself, this is not the end. It's just the beginning. But just as I was getting ready to graduate, a year and a half before that, at the top of my class, drama, gospel, and everything I can imagine came crumbling down. I was raped by a good friend on top of everything that I ever imagined. I suffered 9 years of severe domestic violence. I faced verbal abuse from my grandmother. But then I realized being a teenager and a broken background wasn't going to excuse me to being successful in life. It was the reason why I had to change my inspiration and everything around me. I landed my first job as a telemarketer. It was busy, and after a month being on the job, I was promoted. I maintained participation in active youth programs, and the community. At age 17 years old, I found Dress for Success. I still didn't have a high school diploma, but I knew I wanted to change something in my life. And I was gonna make myself be bolder than I ever was. I was gonna jump out of that box that they tend to put us in once you have a history as I have it. When I walked through the doors of Dress for Success, I was determined to get an experience of more than I already had. See, when I walked into that boutique, I didn't imagine the interview, but I imagined myself sitting in that corporate position. The suit allowed me to transform, inspire, and change my whole beginning. I wasn't just a teenager with a GED and a child, but I was gaining professionalism and a limitless potential. This suit that I have here represents who I am today. Even though it's just a simple suit, and maybe even a size 4, I don't fit in anymore. It inspires me to do other things greater every day. It inspires me to help women like the women who are sitting in front of me. To help women be educated, inspired, and edified. That first suit changed my life completely. See, some of you may be just getting acquainted with Dress for Success. And for the first time in many years, I am celebrating 14 years with the organization. I support Dress for Success 14 years from being pregnant, 14 years from trials and tribulations, 14 years of which the curse has been broken, because I have a wonderful 14-year-old daughter. And even though I came from a family that was broken, unheard of, with even not knowing who my brother and sisters are to this day, but overall, I conquered it, and I conquered it with victory. In 2013, inspired and motivated by what I love to do, which is accounting, I started my own tax and bookkeeping firm. I cater to low-income families who are in need of education and knowing how to deal with their finances, with business contractors from small to big in 30-something different contractors that are both bilingual. But most of all, I change their life every time they come into that office. See, and even though I had to go through so much pain, and I was at one point broken, disadvantaged, and not even being able to understand life. But I passed down the power of perseverance. I didn't have any professional role models, but now my children do. And through those years of life, I gained my own physical testimony. I am a walking testimony. I've lived it, I cried it, I bled for it, and everything that I've done through Dress for Success is amazing. But one thing changed my life when I went to that summit. A gentleman by Mr. John inspired me to get up that day. Terrified as I was, I gave my story. And I never knew that my future was only unfolding. But I do have to say that I believe in miracles. And I believe that families can get reunion, they can be restored, and they can reunite. I also celebrate with this victory, finding my 3 out of my 9 brothers and sisters of my mother's side be reunited over Easter weekend. And I'm proud to say that we are all forgiving each other, and we all are not a family. But I also know what Dress for Success really means to me. And as Joy was stating, it's not just a suit. It's more than a suit. It's more what you get out of it. And being able to inspire someone's life when you come in through that door and being able to change somebody's life is powerful. Because in the end, there's always a winner. There's always light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you.